everybody, and as we have been talking about for many weeks or months at this point, Shift Happens is, well, it's happening. We are here in Washington, D.C. at AvePoint's conference. Dux and I are in proximity to each other. Dux, my man, how's it going?
It's great, so I guess we should change this now. Shift happened.
Yeah, at this point, it is past tense. The conference is on its tail end, winding down. But Dux, you have an interesting perspective here, right? You talk a lot about technology, travel, and all that stuff, but a conference is a whole different can of worms.
Absolutely.
This was your first conference that put on, and more importantly, you guys are a software company. Like, why? What, candidly, just why did you do this?
No, that's a great question, Brad. And again, thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Enterprise Dish.
Yep.
So it's been a couple of years. Customers come to us always seeking advice.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of conferences out there. Which one should we go to?
Yep.
Which one's valuable? And oftentimes the feedback we get is, while there's a lot of great conferences,
Yep.
a lot of them are either too technical, which is not a problem if they need to learn,
Yep.
or if there are customer stories out there, it's still very contoso, to put it bluntly.
Yep.
Right?
If you're not familiar with Contoso, that's one of Microsoft's generic companies that they use in all of their demos.
And Northwind Traders. Yep. Yeah. So what customers have been asking is there a place where we can go to where we can hear from peers, like-minded organizations where they're in this journey and we just want to know what they did. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
Right? And through their learnings, they'll be able to better what they're doing in their own journey. And with that mindset and that concept, this maybe exactly a year ago, we decided we're going to put together this conference.
Okay.
And picking a city was important since Washington, D.C. is a big hub for us, not only for our team, but also our customers. So we decided to put it here. And the theme around this event is, as you know, it's digital transformation from the trenches. Our goal was to bring top people from the industry, experienced professionals. In fact, like this week, we have customers from Merck, for example, which is not a tiny organization.
I was gonna say, that's a pretty large company.
Prudential Financial, Bank of Hawaii, City of Richmond. And more importantly, these organization profile are organizations you typically don't hear from.
Yeah.
Financial services and government.
Yep.
But the encouraging and exciting part is how they're so forward-thinking and what they've done to make it work.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the whole theme and gist of what the conference is about.
Yep. And I will give a quick shout out. If you have not watched it yet, we have a Bank of Hawaii video up. There's a Jeff Teeper one, but if the Bank of Hawaii one is really, really interesting because they are so candid about all the mistakes that they made, which is things. It's a bank. They're supposed to be, right, in a suit. Their ledgers are clean. The money's perfect. And they come out and say, you know what? We forgot to migrate from SharePoint. We just kind of pushed it off. And then all of a sudden we realized we couldn't meet our deadlines.
And you're talking about wearing a suit. I mean, isn't Kevin cool? He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Right? Yeah. Well, he's from Ireland, too. I was like, why aren't we... Wait a minute, Kevin. We'll go to your place where you live, Ireland, first, and then we'll go to Hawaii because, I mean, it's Hawaii.
That's right.
It's not a bad place
to be. So I encourage you to listen to that. That's very good, yeah.
But diving back into this conference, so there were 3 different tracks here.
Sure.
How do you decide? Because you guys could have done anything.
Absolutely. So the first order of business is to make sure that this is practical, real world, people can learn from each other, good, bad, ugly. So that's mission number 1. And then second, we thought about, okay, what would people want to learn and want to know? Yeah. Certainly we want to have a good set of sessions that would appeal to all different kinds of individuals. So then we have what we call the business acceleration track, really understanding from a business perspective, mission perspective for the government, how they can accelerate their organization through modern technologies.
Yep.
Second is we call technology innovation. These sessions tend to be more technical. They go deep into nitty-gritty, how they did it.
Yeah.
And then the third one, which is our sustainable adoption workshop track, essentially our longer session, more workshop type of setup where there's more interaction, there's whiteboard, our presenters are experts and facilitators, but they can kind of map out solutions and whatnot. So those are the 3 sessions, 3 tracks.
That was honestly, just even the title alone was probably the most interesting on my side because it's one thing to get there, right? It's one thing to move people to teams, but if nobody's being sustainable about it, just like anything else in the world, it falls apart, and then all that work you did for a nice clean migration just goes away.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been near and dear to us for the past couple of years. Adoption by itself is not enough. We need to figure out how to sustain that adoption, especially in this fast-paced, ever-changing world of Office 365.
Yep. And Dux, I got to put you on the spot here because
Sure.
I was starting to think about what's next. Obviously, there's this conference, but I know I will see Mr. Dux at Ignite, and I have talked to Mario, and I've talked to TJ, and they all said I could ride the Ducati. So
There you go. In case you guys don't know, at Microsoft Ignite, we do two really cool things.
they do.
We give away a Ducati, and we throw the most coolest fun party. It's called the Red Party. So.
Yeah. And then one last thing about running a conference: speakers.
Yes.
Right. That is the meat and potatoes of any conference. You can pick a location, you can pick the decor, but the speakers. So how did you go about? I mean, you guys had some really interesting keynote speakers. You had Jeff. You had somebody from the FBI, which I'll let you dive into. But
DEA.
Oh, DEA. That's
Yeah.
right. DEA. How do you go about picking speakers? Because it's got to be somebody you trust, right? And
Sure.
They've got to be good, but I bet you guys probably had a lot of people apply. I'd
Absolutely,
imagine.
yeah. So there are really two main key groups of speakers that we tapped into. Number one is you wanted people from the industry that's really setting the roadmap for all these things. Hence, we have good friends from Microsoft like Jeff Teeper,
Yep.
so we can talk about what Microsoft is doing, so that helps the customers to think about where Microsoft's going so they can align with that. We have Tony Towns-Whitley, who heads
Yeah.
up U.S. regulated industries business, and she can talk about what essentially she's seeing in her customer base. And then we have Ray Wang, who talked about the future of AI. So we want to get these thought leaders to help set the stage. And then the next group of speakers, most of them are our customers.
Okay.
I guess
Easy enough.
because people want to learn from each other.
Sure.
So we have a lot of great and phenomenal customers that are willing to come and say, hey, look, this is what we did. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. And this is how we fixed it. So those are the two critical groups of speakers.
Yeah.
And then lastly, talking about DEA, so we had Steve Murphy, who came and really shared his story on how he caught Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched Narcos, got to watch Narcos. The guy who caught Pablo Escobar spent an hour, actually more than an hour, because he joined us happy hour too, sharing his story. And from my perspective, look, any type of conference like this, you've learned so much throughout the day.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, something unexpected but really compelling and impactful story that people are familiar with, I think makes a huge difference to
Yep.
any conference.
Plus, it kind of takes you outside of that real technical thing. It's
Right.
an easier way to just sit back and kind of enjoy, not only enjoy the keynote, but enjoy the content as well.
Sure.
And so it's been, I was going to say it's been really interesting here, but it's also been fascinating because this is your first conference. And we've told people time and time again, it did not feel like a first-person
Thank
conference.
you.
First
Thank
off, it was packed, right? There were hundreds of people here. Typically, you think first conference, maybe they'll have tribal, drum. Nope. A lot of good people here. A lot of good attendees, speakers, and all that stuff. And everything, at least from an external perspective, has gone pretty smoothly.
So what? Any specific feedback you've gotten from people that kind of stood out for you?
So there's been a lot of, obviously talking about teams, right? We've interviewed over a dozen people sitting in that chair right there. And the interesting thing is learning about where people are in that team's adoption cycle.
Sure.
Obviously, everybody, I think, is at this point on board with the idea that Teams adds value in some capacity. Whether it's just simply, hey, messaging, we know we need to get to a better messaging platform, and Teams is being the cool kid in town from that. Understanding that, hey, the government is starting to adopt Teams. And if you're not familiar with the life cycle, it's usually like Microsoft adopts things day one, then the IT pros, and then the government's typically
Couple years.
politely. And to see that they are already jumping
On
on
board,
the Teams
yeah.
bandwagon, to me, really sold that, hey, Microsoft will tell us there's 500,000 organizations doing this, but now that the government's jumping in, Teams is not just a flash in the pan.
That's right.
It's very, very sticky for Microsoft.
Not Microsoft Bob, right?
No, not like Bob, not like the Vista Ultimate Extras.
Clippy.
Clippy, which I've worn that suit. It is not friendly, my friend, and anything else. So, Dux, as we wrap up the back of the book here, we had the discussion with TJ about who travels more. Where are you headed to next? What's on your agenda now? You're probably taking a deep breath now that this is just behind you.
No rest for the weary. But
that is true.
I got to tell you, I'm so grateful and very privileged to be a part of this ecosystem, to be working with a lot of phenomenal people like you.
Yeah.
But for me, next week I'm taking off 3 days with the family.
Fantastic.
Head down to the Panhandle and enjoy that time. Soon after that, it's Inspire.
Oh, that's right. You get to
Yeah.
go to Expire in the very nice deserts of Nevada.
That's right. But it's all good. We
Yeah.
get to hear what's coming next fiscal year from Microsoft.
Yes,
Yeah.
which don't feel free to tell me.
No.
Anyways, Dux, this has been an amazing show. As we wrap up Shift Happens, folks, we've got a bunch of content up on the site. Make sure to go check that out. I'll include Dux links in the descriptions below. And to everybody else, thanks for tuning in, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for hanging out on another episode of the Enterprise Dish.
I'll see you till the next one.